Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. Just kidding. Well, hello and welcome to our first episode of Expat Entrepreneurs, a Zoomcast show for people interested in business and entrepreneurship abroad. Frankly, entrepreneurship might not have been the best word to put in the title because it's kind of hard to say. Anyway, we're going with it. Our mission with Expat Entrepreneurs is to give you the kind of information that can help you make better decisions by giving you real talk level insights from people on the ground making it happen right now. Our first season will focus pretty much exclusively on Thailand and how people actually get things done here, the good, the bad, and the unexpected. Our first guest is an unlikely baker from the EU who originally found himself in Thailand because of a corporate job as a turnaround executive, but later turned his stress-relieving hobby of baking sourdough into a side business, which, as you'll hear, grew unexpectedly fast and has provided his family with an unexpected and unanticipated set of opportunities. To give you a little more context about this interview in particular, it was conducted after only the third month of business, and to date they've had to expand their space once, buy more equipment, and even have been asked by a high-end mall to open a second location with them. So just as a warning to the viewers, we are heavy in the experimentation mode, so expect things to change and hopefully get a lot better with time. And I also want to give you fair warning that we are total novices when it comes to video production, as is obvious, and this is our show's first episode. It's frankly not up to snuff with what we have come to expect from YouTube videos, and we considered not even posting it and just calling it the last episode, but we believe that that would be cheating and not in keeping with our ethos of giving you real talk. So please enjoy, bear with us as we iterate and improve, and please look for the golden nuggets in this interview with the expat entrepreneur Nikolai Bartel of Bartel's Craft Bread, Coffee, and Juicery. Cheers. So we can trade mics because I didn't, whatever, that thing. So let me know, just let me know and I'll pass my mic over. So were you happy? Were you frustrated? Did you make a lot of money and you felt golden handcuffs kind of situation?
Yeah, the financial, I mean, once you start to solve problems and you prove that you can handle problem solving on a pretty where the effect has a big consequence for the profit of a company. Of course, thereby follows a salary, and you can easily get hooked up with that. My wife and I, we've moved to Thailand. I got a job as CEO for an animation company. And my wife moved here with me. And I was working a lot to solve the problems that I was hired to solve. And that was working quite nicely. But my wife at that point, she got bored, so she started up a small company on the side. When the problems was solved here in Thailand, I got promoted to another position within the same group, but we moved back to Denmark, and of course thereby followed also a different kind of economy, and we found out that when we moved back to Denmark, that all the money in the world couldn't make us happy in the sense of when I came home from work, it was at times not super satisfying at all. You could drive a big car, you have a nice house, everything is seemingly picture perfect. But if you're not working with the right kind of people, if you're not working with the right kind of problems, or maybe the problems are not the actual problem, if you're not working with the right team or if you're not solving the problems for the right people, if you don't share values, if you don't share enough of your vision on the world with the people that you're actually working for and with. Then I found out, and we found out as a family, that there was no money in the world that could be worth that. So at some point that came to an end, and we looked at each other, and we were kind of, what kind of life is it that we want? And we looked back at the time we had in Bangkok, where we had a great time. She was working on her newly started business, and I was working on very independently together with my wonderful team here in Thailand. We were working very independently. We solved the problems, and we were quite far away from the mother company, and it was wonderful. We had a pretty good life. So we decided at that point that it was better to sell the big car and sell the big house and kind of put the foot down. And we knew that it was a completely different financial situation, but we were looking at, but we were kind of ready to do that.
Do you now live a much less materialistic, much less money-driven lifestyle? Have you adapted that part, or because you're an expat in Thailand, are you able to live kind of the same standard of living that you had in Denmark?
No, to be honest, the money.
Just a second.
No, my phone fell down. To be honest, the money part, I'm never gonna be. The funny thing is, when I went to university and even before going to university, it was pretty clear for me that there was a target. There was a target to become whatever CEO or something high in management, and make a lot of money and have a big car and have a big house. And I kind of thought that would kind of set the frame of a happy life. And it just got very, very clear to me that it is not. It's nice with nice vacations, and it's nice with a big car, and it's nice with a big house, but it doesn't define if you are happy or not at all. So when we came here, it was a completely different economy, very, very low key, and it still is. But I'm happier than I've been for at any time while I've been working in Denmark as employed by other people, no matter what it was based.
You mentioned a lot that the important part is who you're working for. Are you able to share any stories about before the types of companies or people you're working for that now you're happy, you don't have to compromise your values or your happiness for that sort of organization?
I don't like to go into too many details because it's it gets a very one-sided story. But
I don't think they're watching, by the way.
No, but the bigger picture is that I believe that the people you're working with, the people you hire, they will be, if you hire the right people, they will be a reflection of your own behavior. They will do a good job if you treat them in a certain way, and if you act as a role model. If you have the right people, they will imitate you. They will do the same things you're doing, and you can create a pretty strong organization that can think themselves and they can act in your picture. When you're working for people that don't share that belief, and they have a more skeptical view on what people are and what people can do and whether they can be trusted, or whether how you have to. It's a question of what you believe in when it comes to management of people. And when that conflicts, I found out that's where the big issues are, because you lose yourself. You lose who you are, and you start to manage by some rules defined by other people, and suddenly you have to explain things that you're doing, and initiatives you're taking, and decisions you're making based on reasons that are not your own. And that's where, after a period of time, it's very difficult to find out who you are.
You had something.
Cool. So yeah, I want to bring it back, like riff off that a little bit and bring it back specifically to Thailand, because you know, we're focusing this season specifically on Thailand and lessons learned and sort of things you wish you'd known, stuff like that. Like, so there are a certain number of people, there's a certain segment of people that are sort of living around the world, dreaming about, you know, they can now work remotely. So they're like, well, maybe I'm going to go work from Thailand. You know, I went on honeymoon there, it was great, like that sort of thing. And so there's a big gap, I think, between vacationing in Thailand and setting up a business in Thailand, or becoming an entrepreneur, or working from Thailand. And so we want to hear, I specifically want to hear, and I think some of us others want to hear about kind of the trials and tribulations, what you wish you had known, and kind of how you really like kind of jumped the chasm.
So why did you choose Thailand in the first place?
In the first place, it was because I got hired to this position where where the job seemed interesting. So that was basically the first jump here. We've been on vacation here for a few times, and we love the beaches. Who don't love the beach in Thailand? So we wanted to try it out, and it was a pretty intriguing life. Even though coming to a place like this is like everything is, you have to give up a lot from home, and you have to cut some contact with family, etc. But we moved here, and we're ready for the adventure. And I think that one of the first things that came to my that was difficult about getting here and wanting to achieve something in a business perspective is of course the way people are that the Thais are behaving in a workplace, and that is of course very related to the education system and how they're brought up and culture and all kinds of things. And if you come from Western Europe or Northern Europe specifically, where everybody are expected to say their opinion out loud, and where you can just juggle with ideas, and you will very, very quickly find out that's going to meet some resistance. Not like clear in your face kind of resistance, but it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen here in the same way as you are used to.
So we have a question from our audience. So we have a question from Paulina, and she's asking the following question. So how did you get started with business in Thailand? We already answered. And then could you give any advice for someone who will be looking for a job in the country very soon?
Yeah, but getting started with business in Thailand is actually not that difficult. But you have to be ready to invest some money. The first part of the challenge of setting up a business in Thailand is that to get your work permit and to be able to live here and work here, you need to have minimum 4 Thai employees. So you got to be ready to invest some money to get the company started up, and to be ready to pay the salary of 4 Thai staff to do whatever it is you want to do.
What kind of salary can people expect? Like at different? So, I mean, I don't know if this is a personal thing to mention, but these are the sort of things that people want to know. Like,
I mean,
what's the monthly salary of like someone you have
in Bangkok? You have minimum monthly salaries of I believe it's 9,000 or 10,000 baht altogether. Yeah, how much is
9,000 or 10,000 baht? So it's like 300 USD.
Yeah, but it's an unrealistic salary to do anything. With that budget in Thailand. If you want employees that can actually do stuff and show a little bit of initiative, then you have to go somewhat higher. Now we've started up a cafe bakery place, and the salaries are approximately double before you start to be able to attract some people with reasonably good English skills and with some brain capacity and some initiative.
And would you say that's the differentiating factor between sort of the minimum wage tier and sort of the doubling is the English skills specifically?
I'm not so much about the English skills. Well, that's a part of it as well, but of course it limits the field when it comes to English skills. But it's more about what what kind of people you're getting. I've been very surprised, especially with the new company that we are starting, or that we are running now for 3 months, that the people we've been able to get in this company, they are so driven. They have so much. They take so much responsibility, and they have very, very strong personalities, and much more than I thought that from my previous experience in Thailand, where it has been difficult to find really, really good staff, I think.
Do you accredit that to something special you did in the interview process or the recruiting process? Is there some amazing interview process you take them out to like a Thai bar and you get to know them well?
No, not at all.
How do you make sure that they're this like unique personality that you're looking for?
I can make sure of that. I've hired a lot of people during in the last 10-15 years. I hired in the animation company we were 200 people, and there was quite a big level of recruitment going on there. I didn't handle that myself though, but it's a lot of people, and we fail regularly. You can't predict everything, but I'm personally never looking at the education, not for this kind of business. I'm looking at how they present themselves. I look very much at what they are looking at in the interview. I try to make them talk as much as possible. The more they talk, the more they give away about their views of the world and their opinions, and they without unknowingly or whatever, they will give away a lot about what their focus is. And you can find good and bad employees in all countries, but here in Thailand you do have to be careful. The education system and culture, etc., defines good behavior as something where you kind of obey to your superiors, or you obey to the elders, or you obey to hierarchy in general. And that's the of course I like that people respect that it's my company and I have the final say, but I want people to have opinions about things, and I want them to express their opinions, and so that's mostly what I'm looking for. Are they able to express their opinion?
So if they're very quiet and respectful in an interview, that's actually a yellow or red flag for you.
Yes. The more quiet they are, or the more respectful, or if I can see that they're trying to analyze whether I want this answer or that answer, then they're gonna. If I can kind of get that feeling, then the interview is over.
Got it. So if they're too differential, if they show too much deference to you, it means to you that they might not be taking initiative or be expressing the traits that you're really looking for in a business, right?
I'm looking for people that tells me in a positive way, boss, you're wrong.
Yeah, right.
And then we talk about it, and then we find out whether I'm wrong or whether I'm right, and then we take it from that. That's what I'm looking for, and that can be extremely difficult. But with this group of recruitments, I've been very positively surprised of the talent that I feel that we've gotten in. I'm very happy with the people.
So if you could give any advice for someone who will be looking for a job in this country, would you warn them about Thai culture specifically, or what would be your advice?
To get a job in Thailand, well, at the moment it's probably difficult. But in general, getting a job in Thailand, first of all, you gotta find a company that is ready to pay for the expenses of getting a foreign name, because it's not cheap. You have to handle the work permits. In order to get the work permits, you need to have X number of Thai employees. So there is some administration. So don't expect that you can get in and be a barista or whatever, some kind of low key job. You need to bring in something where you can offer something. You can be a driving factor in setting some standards. So yeah, you need to have a specialty, or you have to be a specialist, or you have to be in management. You have to be in one of those. And then in Thailand, because it is a tricky culture to navigate in at first, because you never get a no, you never get a straight no or a straight yes. You always have to navigate. So any kind of international experience where you can kind of show that you've been managing different cultures before will be a huge plus for any kind of management hiring.
So I have a question about your startup costs. I think everybody has friends. Some of us probably felt this urge ourselves. Wouldn't it be amazing if I could start my own bar, have my own restaurant where I create all the food, or my own cafe, and all my friends can come and I get to, hang out with them all the time and just make delicious food and drinks. But they always kind of back away from that dream. And I think a lot of the time is, one, it's not straightforward how to succeed. So many cafes, restaurants are unsuccessful. But the other part is it's unclear just how much you need to put in terms of startup capital and the process work to get it started. Can you give us an idea of like how much was your initial investment before you opened? And then what was the process as a foreigner? Because I also heard that I think a lot of us know to be a foreigner who owns a majority of a company is very difficult here. There are special acts. So with that in mind, can you give us an idea, like how hard was it for you to start? What sort of range of startup capital did you need? If you can share just a range, that'd be great.
Yeah. The startup capital is pretty reasonable. I believe back in the days it was 2 million baht over a period of time. It's not something you have to present straight away.
So about 60,000 USD over many months.
Over
capital expenses to get started.
Yeah,
and that's not including staff at all. That's just like rental and all that stuff.
It's money you put in the company to get yourself started one way or another. Okay. And in terms of ownership, that's true. You need to have tie in certain. It depends on the industry that you're in. If you're interested in finding out what you can do and cannot do in Thailand, it's a very, very good idea to search for BOI, Board of Investment. And they are very willingly to give you good advice as to which businesses and which offers Thailand can give you as a foreigner if you are ready to invest in Thailand. There are geographical regions where they offer certain benefits. I know that Chiang Mai and Phuket as well, they have, especially within IT, if you are ready to invest in those regions, they will allow you to own the company in full, for example, or you can get a tax credit for X number of years. So there are lots of ways to get a pretty good deal. But of course, if you want to start up something that is completely common and ordinary, like you could say that a cafe would be, or a restaurant would be, yes, that's right, then you need to have a Thai partner for minimum 51%. That's correct.
So I'm going to point out that you started a cafe, which, for anybody who's not living in Thailand, like it seems like the national sort of pastime is starting a cafe.
Yes, it is. In a coffee shop or a cafe.
Right?
Yeah.
So how did you decide, like, you know what, I'm going to throw my head in the ring and just, start a cafe?
No, but the bigger picture, and that's also an important part of a very important part of the story, is that my wife's small business that she started up while I was working in
So the makeup business here.
The makeup business, yes. That small business became kind of a big business. We started the makeup academy here in Bangkok, and we had students from more than 40 countries flying into Thailand to get their education. And we thought that would be pretty interesting to see if we could do that in other countries. So we opened in Myanmar, in Yangon. And then we opened a branch in Pune in India, and that was followed by one in New Delhi, and it was followed by one in Bangalore. So it's kind of that's kind of where everything started out. So when we wanted to move location here in Bangkok, we found a new kind of location with a lot more atmosphere. We had some more capital this time. We had some more money to play around. And this new location had a ground floor, which was perfect for some kind of cafe or retail business. So
So I'm just going to give reference to anyone who doesn't live in Thailand. There's basically a sort of this law here. Like in most countries that I've lived in, you can't just start a business out of your home and have a cafe out of your home. There's a unique sort of situation here in Thailand where if you essentially, like, there's no restriction. You can just put a shingle out front and start serving lattes if you want. Like there's
No permits required.
Yeah, it's just like
well, we did have to apply and
there
get
was
a
some
food license and an alcohol license and those things. It hasn't been huge. We're working with a company here that helps us with all the legal requirements and all the compliance stuff.
What's the company?
They're called SIAC.
Siam Legal?
SIAC. SIAC. And they've been since we started our first business here, they've been very, very helpful handling all the stuff that gets in the way of you focusing on your own business. And they are still with us. They're handling all of our accounting and all the compliance and all that stuff.
What do you pay for that?
It's very reasonable, I think. I think now where we have a lot of paperwork and stuff like that, we're still in.
Like on a monthly cost,
I
like
think it's, I don't know, 10,000, 15,000 baht.
1,000 baht.
Yeah.
So like $300 to $500 somewhere in there. Got it.
Something like that. And then
which is crazy. I want to say that having had a US like multi-name like office in Silicon Valley, like it's just like $500 an hour.
Very, very affordable. And the thing is that of course we get extra bills when we need them to handle our work permits, and then we pay what the fees are, and that's not cheap. That's pretty.
Say more.
Handling work permits and for 2 adults and 2 kids, and they don't need a work permit, but they need the visas. And that's maybe, I don't know how much you pay per year. 100,000 baht or 150,000 baht. I don't know, something like that to get it all going. And then you have another side of it that is every time there is a chance for the immigration to find any kind of missing link or anything in your paperwork, they will be happy to ask for fees to make the holes go away. And that's something everybody is dealing with.
Can you give us an idea of how much you had to pay in, we'll say,
exogenous fees?
Yes.
Yeah, but it depends on what the problem is.
No, but for you, in total, you've been running 3 months for this, or do you mean for the?
No, for this, no. This is more our life here. We never for running the business, and when we wanted to apply for Ministry of Education earlier in the days, because it could give us some advantages in terms of student visas and stuff. It was completely impossible to get through the red tape without offering a significant brown envelope, and we chose not to. We chose to back out of that because there's first of all, I don't like it. Second of all,
that's definitely our sensibilities, right?
Sure. Zero guarantee that we would get through with anything. Once you show that you pay the first brown envelope, I'm pretty sure that there will be a second and probably a third. And I don't know. We chose not to. But in terms of visa and work permits, and now we had a situation where last year or earlier this year, remember, where we didn't have our marriage certificate has been fine every time we've been applying for 7 years, and suddenly it wasn't good enough for some reason. So we had to get a new one and an original one, which is pretty difficult to get because we have to travel back to Denmark to get that, and it's pretty costly to do that move with 4 people, and they know. So they know that you look at the alternative cost, and then they set their price by that. I think everybody are working with that, and then you're trying not to do it. You're trying not to get into that zone of getting dirty, but it's the way it works.
Yeah. Having had different international jobs around the world, it's just sort of, it seems to be the exception that in places like, on most levels, like in Europe and in the US, like that, they're the exception. Most other places in the world, that's just how it
getting
works.
your business up and running, I would say using a competent partner to help you get things started. I don't see brown envelopes as a big part of that at all. It's only when you get into these situations where some paperwork is missing, or you to get the food license here, the owner of the building had to present some kind of document or certificate of whenever the building was built. And he is probably owner number 700, so of course he doesn't have that document. Mm-hmm. And then they basically, well, if you want your food license, that comes with cost. Pay up. And what can you do? You've just invested whatever you invested in setting up everything. So you have no way out of it. You just pay whatever is asked. It's not huge amounts. It's not like breaking your business case for a year, but it's just you have to.
It's the cost of doing business.
It's a cost of doing business.
Yes.
In the beginning, it was very frustrating, and now I think just kind of trying to just do it if we are advised to do it.
So, going back to my question a few minutes ago about everybody has this dream, you're a few months in. What advice would you give to those other people who are thinking they're going to start some sort of retail, restaurant, cafe, bar in Thailand?
First of all, find a partner, because you will need at least on the paper, but you will need someone to
find a Thai partner that will own the majority of the company, 51%, and that you can trust.
Someone you can trust, or you can divide it out by, and that's actually probably the best advice. It is to find 5 or 10 partners, and then give them each 5% of the company. And they should preferably be people that are invested in this, that cares about your business. And even if one gets a nasty idea of stealing your business, it'll only be 1 of 5 or 1 of 10. It's the only advice I can give in terms of securing yourself, because the Thai system favors Thai people to an extreme extent.
I will say there's one caveat to that, and that's if you're American, different rules apply. There's this 100-year-old treaty called the Treaty of Amity or something like that, and you would want to talk with a lawyer, but it allows Americans to do protected jobs. There's certain protected jobs that Americans can do, like we can work in a bar, for example, which is kind of weird. Why would only Thais be able to do that? But okay, it's part protected job. Farmers, also protected jobs. So there are different protected jobs. And then the Treaty of Amity makes specific allowances for different types of jobs. It also makes allowances for ownership percentage of the company. Americans can own 100% of a company, for example. But it's, as far as I know, it's the only.
So I have a question about, now that you're 3 months in, what do you see as your competitive advantage? There's more and more juice shops coming and opening up, and you have the healthy angle.
Yeah,
what you're aiming for?
Let's just describe what you do first of all, which is it started out as making sourdough bread.
Yes, it's been a kind of de-stressing thing, I guess, when coming home after a board meeting that went off the rails somehow. It's like sitting down and watching Netflix hasn't really been an option. It's just too much too much going on up here, right? So I don't know. I started baking sourdough bread because it requires a lot of attention.
And just to tell you the story of how we discovered you guys. My wife, loves to cafe hop, and she was like, "Oh, on Instagram, I found this place. Instagram's big here. Facebook's big here." We came. I was like, "Oh, there's no way that there's another place that's better than Holy Bakeries, our former favorite. They make amazing bread." But what's one of the things that's super hard to find here is good sourdough bread. And you wouldn't think it, because we come from the land of sourdough bread. Like, everyone and their uncle makes sourdough bread, and it's all pretty good. But you come here, and it's just super rare. And so you have this. You wouldn't think of it not living here, but then as soon as you come here, you realize, oh, there's this market need. And so clearly there was some sort of synergy there with your 10-year stress-relieving hobby. And
yeah. But the funny thing is that the idea of starting this place was tightly connected to the makeup school. We have students from all over the world. And a lot of the students are coming here, and then they end up eating food in the street kitchens, and they're here in the 3-month period, and after a few weeks they're pretty fed up with noodles and stuff. So we thought we would make a place for the students to hang out, and if there were a few other people that would come by and have a cup of coffee and a sandwich, that would be cool. So it was basically a hobby project.
Yeah,
it was supposed to be a hobby project. It was just if it could pay a little bit of the rent, and if it could, then we would be kind of happy. And then the further we went into it, the higher the budget of the renovation got, because the ambitions they crawled upwards. And so today we ended up with a place that has a really, really nice ambience. It has this Scandinavian design feel throughout. It has we in opposition to most other places, we try to serve things without sugar at all. In Thailand, even bread, everything is with sugar. If you buy a cup of coffee, it's filled with sugar. We don't add sugar at all, kind of. We try to keep it fairly healthy, and we make high quality artisan sandwiches. And I thought it would be a niche market and a niche group, and it probably is in the bigger picture. But we have customers now that's like tons of Japanese, and our group of Indian customers is growing wildly at the moment. It's like, I didn't know that sandwiches were a thing in the Indian society. I also thought that the Japanese, who like the more fluffy kind of white bread, I thought it would be hard for them, but they like it, and they come back. So it's a big mix of people. On another angle, it's a wonderful place to sit and work, because it's quiet. It has quite a lot of space. We have a lot of corners where people can sit and hang out with their computers and do a Skype meeting. And so it's somewhere between a healthy juice bar, a bakery, and a co-working space. And it seems to be working.
So to your question.
Yeah, and that's a great answer. And I think what I'm really interested to hear now is, you mentioned the different demographics and ethnicities, basically different cultures. Can you talk a bit more about the differences you've seen between some of the foreigner customers, the patterns in how they come to your cafe, what they order, how long they spend, any insights we can get into that, whether it's Thai versus foreigners in general, or even specific other countries as well?
Yeah. I think one of the key things, what some of the customers have told us, and some of the things that we've kind of, that we're hooking on to now to understand our own business. Because you have to understand that this is not a big, it was a hobby project. So it wasn't like a huge market research project where we're like, oh, this is what we have to do. This was like purely based on feelings, like what we felt was right. So what we're trying to figure out now is exactly why is it so madly successful like it is right now.
It's a good problem to have.
It's a wonderful, but we're trying to figure out what buttons did we push. Right. Because looking at it from where we're coming, we can look at it and say, okay, but we make awesome sandwiches, and it's a nice design, so that's probably it. But there may be a whole lot more to it than that. We see different behaviors. A lot of the Japanese crowd is housewives. They are coming in groups of 2, 3, 4, 5. And then they have their sandwiches. They mostly order the same type of sandwiches.
I noticed your place is also pet friendly.
Yes, that's another. That's also another thing. That's also a segment. But the Japanese, they want a certain thing, and they are not all of them, but the majority of the Japanese, they want a certain thing. And you have the Americans, which they like to get in and get there. The biggest, chunkiest sandwich they can get is like that's where they go.
Living up to our reputation.
Guilty.
Yes, absolutely. And you have the Thais that are more into trying the sourdough because I think a lot of Thais are very, very oriented towards what's going outside of Thailand and internationally, but they don't fully understand what this sourdough thing is and why it's so popular. So they come in and they ask for whatever sourdough roll, and they're wondering what's inside of it.
Deconstruct it.
Yeah, it's like, is it chocolate or what is it? There is nothing inside. So
are they disappointed?
Very
when
often,
they look at
yes, very often they're disappointed. But the funny thing is that now we try to guide them a little bit, but it's an acquired taste for the Thais. It's not but I do see that a lot of the young, the sporty, healthy Thais, the ones, and also the older generation, the upper class, I think you could say, they know what this is, and they are coming in, but mostly for takeaway, not so much for sitting in and eating in, but they buy a loaf and they take home. So they consider us a bakery. The Japanese, they take home as well, but they consider us much more a cafe, and a lot of the Westerners use us as takeaway and delivery. It's like just some brief. And then you have all the co-working space where we have tons of Westerners that use us as a co-working space.
Is there a certain segment that you have identified that you really want to grow, that you think is the most valuable to you?
No.
So
it's completely. When we're looking at when we're looking at what we're selling and how we're making our money, the 50% of our revenue are from bread-based products. So either bread that is just sold as bread, or sandwiches.
it's revenue, though. Do you have an idea on profit? What's your most profitable?
We make bread is retail-wise expensive. Really expensive. A loaf of 900 grams that we make is 250 baht here. Wow. Which is, how much is that in?
It's like $8-9 US.
Yeah, and people, we're sold out every day. There is nothing left. And
so expensive. Yeah.
It's people are ready to pay.
So they love the bread.
Yes, and because of the ingredients we use, is basically it's flour, water, and salt. There's nothing. It's a natural product, and the flour here is, if you find the right flour, it's affordable. Then your margin is fairly high on the bread. So it's a good that the bread is a nice business, but again, it's a niche product. So I never thought that we would be selling as much bread as we actually do. The sandwiches, we try to. We've made some deals with some very high-profile suppliers, like the best we can find. Suppliers of handmade pickled jalapenos and onions. And we try to get these artisan producers to deliver to us. And of course, that costs something.
Could you talk a little bit about quantities and numbers? Just to make it real.
To make it real, right now we've gone from right now we're selling around in weekends we're selling 130, 40, 50 cents per day.
And just doing the mental math here. Got it. So it's like $10,000 a day or something. Am I off by zero?
No, that's off. We're making the revenue of day like today is probably around 70,000.
Got it. So got it. $2,000 US dollars approximately.
Yeah. And it sounds like it doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it's pretty consistent, and it's more or less every day. Of course, the weekdays are less, but not like a lot less. And you have to again look back at what the staff cost is, and you have to look at. The rent of this building is high. But
would you say that's your highest cost?
Yes,
is the rent?
Yes, absolutely. Not in total, because now we've in the beginning we were me and 3 staff, 2.5 staff, and I thought that would probably be sufficient. and now we are on Monday number nine is starting.
Oh wow!
So of course, if everybody gets between 15 and 20,000 baht, you.
Sorry to interrupt. So just so we're keeping track of the time, we're up to an hour here. I just want to make sure that Julia, you had a couple questions that you wanted to ask, and then also, actually, I want to spend some time focusing on if there's any other questions that, because we sort of built this as a little bit more interactive, but we had kind of trouble in the beginning getting started. So
In the meantime, how close are you to profitability on a monthly basis? Are you
It's profitable.
already profitable?
oh, really? And you've been doing
Congrats.
this how many months?
This is we just passed 3.
Jesus.
That is super fast. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
we in the beginning we thought that the cafe should cover around 30% of the rent, and
Oh, that's right. This is just so people know. This is a 5-story building that you have here, and it's only the first 2 that are.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And the makeup academy was supposed to cover for the last 70%, but the situation was that all the borders are closed, kind of, and our students for the makeup school cannot get in. So the cafe has to cover that 100% of the rent, and even in that perspective, we are still profitable. So after 3 months, that's pretty. I'm pretty happy with that.
That's fantastic.
And that's with you working approximately how many hours a week?
Yeah, 90 hours a day. Yes.
Yeah, that's the downside of all of this. That the first 3 months have been crazy. I've never in my life worked so many hours. I get in at 5:30 in the morning, and I leave. I'm home anywhere between 8 in the evening and 8 and 11 p.m. So how many hours is that?
Too many.
Do you mind if we
And
extend this?
it's 7 days a week.
Do you mind if we extend this for maybe another 10-15 minutes, just because we had a rocky start? Is that fine? Okay. And your lovely wife is here. And so how has the work-life balance been?
Well, I come here to see my husband today.
Just right, like waving hi while interviewing him.
I could finally catch him. Well,
Here.
the interview was prepared.
Let me give you a microphone here. Yeah, come on, sit down. There, just speak into this.
So
introduce yourself.
yes, I'm Eva. Yeah. I'm the wife. So when we started this, we kind of expected what was waiting for us, I would say, because starting SMA, our makeup academy, it was also a lot of hard work. However, this is even more harder, I would say, for you, because now a lot depends on you and on your shoulders, while SMA was more a lot on me as well, because there I was in charge of the creative part together with our other Norwegian makeup artist partner. So we were still working a lot together at home back then, SMA, making curriculum and all that. We had a lot of time together. We actually was in each other's face 24/7 because we was working at home, we was working in SMA together. Well, now when we have 2 kids and we have this cafe where you are basically in charge of every single thing, mostly alone. Yeah, so you go often before the kids wake up and come back when they sleep for these few months.
But it's a matter of what we're looking at is setting up a team, right? It's like we're nine people now, plus me. And one thing is to hire competent people. Another thing is to train them, and so they're able to do so. Most of the guys down there, they've never cut a piece of bread before. They have no idea. It's like what it way, and sourdough even less. They have even less a concept, idea of what the sourdough concept is. So I'm looking at it at like there's light at the end of the tunnel. The guys are bright and they understand things, but it takes some time.
Is that the goal? Is that the goal, to be able to step away and leave your team here running it without you being so involved day to day?
It's my no. I want to. We're not doing the cafe part just for fun. It's we want to. It's clear that we can make it pretty big. The concept has certainly hit something, so I'm not stepping away in any way. But I prefer not to work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. It would be nice to take. It would be nice to take 1 day off once in a
Just a
while.
little bit.
And I don't want to be. The thing is that we have so many opportunities to make this crazy. We can open other branches. We can. We haven't even started looking into delivery services.
Even make a menu.
We have a wonderful space down there, and we've invested a lot of money in making it nice. And not right now. We are closing. We are opening 7 a.m. in the morning. We're closing 6 p.m. Where 6 p.m. is where other restaurants are opening, and that's where they're making their entire revenue. It's from 6 to whatever midnight. We want to do the same thing. So we are thinking to then, as soon as this team is running by itself, more or less, I'm going to shift my attention to the delivery platforms. And I'm going to shift my attention to setting up an evening menu. So we can make revenue from 7 o'clock in the morning till midnight.
Cool. It's great. So what do you have gratitude for in terms of this business versus your previous one, or
Well, actually, you were core to the SMA business.
Mm-hmm.
You were front and center. So actually, why don't you stay up here and we could
Yeah.
do a whole other interview with just you and
Sure,
pre-COVID and COVID.
I'm ready.
So that would be great. So yeah, why don't you?
So what do you both feel that you appreciate about this cafe and business that you're running now versus your previous businesses and also work that you were doing both in animation and otherwise?
I would say comparing to Academy, it's more simplicity. Maybe because it's also related a lot. People love food. So coming here, seeing people happy, it's a daily thing. Well, Academy, it was you have to make a curriculum, a plan. It's huge amount of monies that people have to pay for one course. So they had to think like for 1 year, should we do that or should we not? And then they come and they stay here for 3 months. Well, here in the cafe, they come, we serve them and they love it. They go away happy.
Simple transaction.
Exactly.
Daily.
You get instant feedback, right?
Yeah.
And you can, and even when things go wrong, even when something goes wrong in the, because when we have a new team, an untrained team, of course things go wrong sometimes. It's still, at the end of the day, it's still just a coffee or just a juice or a sandwich. It's like the consequences are not that big. It can almost always be repaired with offering to do it better next time or give them a replacement. Or you go home with a lighter heart.
Lower stakes too. Yeah.
It's nice. People are generally very happy and they appreciate everything. And I think also the team we have, it's like people are coming to work and they are happy and they care about the things they do, and it's a joy. It's not so heavy. It's not heavy. It's a light-hearted environment, and I like it.
Cool. Yeah, so let's wrap it up then. I wanted to ask the ladies, Eva, Rachel, do you guys have any questions? So my wife is also here.
Hi everybody, I'm Rachel Conway.
They can't see you, but they maybe can hear you. I don't know. I'll repeat a question. Do you guys have any burning questions?
If you have any questions, you can answer. You can ask them right now.
Yeah.
The notifications.
I already.
Oh, you read those. Okay, great. Okay.
So you're doing business now for 3 months.
I'll repeat the question.
You're really up and running, and I'm wondering if you could reflect back on the past 3 months where you say, this is now today, all these things happen. You can take pause right now. You have one major learning or something to share with the audience from this event.
Okay. So the question is that you've been open 3 months. It's been really intense. What's basically the major learning?
Yeah, I think for me it has been. I've always been managing companies for other people, meaning that you're kind of navigating not only from your own compass, but you're trying to navigate partly from your own and partly from the people that hired you. And for me, it has proven to me that starting up something where you are the captain on your own boat, where you can afford to just put on the blinders and just go after your own vision. And my wife sometimes shows me reviews on Facebook and stuff like that. I don't read it. I don't read it.
You have to look.
Yeah, I'm not interested because it disturbs me. Because I've come to the conclusion that I'm right. The customers are coming in, they're coming back, and I have to follow that gut. I have to keep on following the gut feeling and navigate after what I feel is right, and not be disturbed so much by other people's opinions. And it feels really, really good when the idea you had is actually working, no matter what other people might have had of input that made you insecure before we launched all of this. Because there have been sleepless nights before we started up. We're like, why are we doing this? A lot of money we're investing now. A coffee machine of whatever, $500,000. It's like stuff like that. Where we're like, why are we? It's like crazy amounts of money we're doing here. It's like, why are we doing this? It's a hobby project. It's for fun. But at the end of the day, when something is successful and it's successful based on your own vision and your own idea of what it should be, it's an amazing feeling. And then suddenly working 16 hours a day for 7 days a week for 3 months seems like a reasonable cost.
As the entrepreneurs, we can appreciate that.
You know what I'm talking about. Yeah,
it's worth the blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah. One of my as a last note, one of my oldest friends working for McKinsey. When he was here visiting me, I don't know, a year ago or more, he told me two things, which I took note of. Was that in his opinion, there was the ones that have success and make the big companies that are really successful. The biggest difference between those who achieve that and those who don't achieve it are very often the major thing is just whether they did it or not. Whether you do it, whether you actually follow your dream and you try it out, and then suddenly it's successful. It's not because there are certain things, and it's just whether you try it out or not try it out. And then there was the other thing where he said that you can start a lot of businesses, but one day you will start a business where it will feel like the wind is blowing in your back and it's just going forward. Your bike is running faster than your feet are going around. It's like that's how it feels. That is exactly how this feels.
Cool.
It's a great feeling. Yeah, we can end on that.
Yeah, that's a great place to end on. So thank you very much. This has been lovely. Are we not shaking hands? Is it COVID? It's COVID. It's COVID. And then, so next month, we're gonna. I wanted to talk a little bit about someone who'd gone through the Smart Visa process. So that's another avenue towards getting a work permit and starting a company and doing that. And so, I think that will be a really fun and interesting thing. And it's a parallel track to the track that you've taken, which is very much like kind of through the more. It's more your track is a little bit more traditional.
Yes.
Has some new hoops. There's a new kind of track for it's very much more like startup-y oriented, smart visas, things like that. So next month we'll talk about that. That'll be super fun, and we'll announce a guest later on.
Sounds good. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers, and we'll see you next month.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, and thank you very much for
guys.
guests. And thank you, Eva, and thank you, Yulia. Do you want to say goodbye? Say goodbye, Yulia.
Bye, guys. See you next month.
All right, cheers.